Good day, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Caregivers World podcast. After Thanksgiving holiday in the US, I hope you've had a chance to recharge and ready for the week ahead to start anew with perhaps a little bit more energy, or at least having had a little bit of nice food, joyous time, family, friends, whatever the case might be. I posted recently, and first I have to apologize for not having done so in the past couple of weeks. November has proven to be a very, very busy month, and finding myself a little tired and trying to find the energy to continue sharing on a positive note how to navigate the avenues of caregiving. So, coming back and ready for the week, I posted something about a show on Netflix called The Mind Explained. It is a show, a docu-series that I found very interesting and intriguing. Of course, the first episode of season one happened to be an episode on memory, which, as most of you know, comes very dear and close to my heart. One of the things that I have learned to respect and appreciate, especially with shows that are really filled with interesting information and knowledge, are the brevity of these episodes, which I try to model also on our podcast. So, hoping that we're touching on subjects that matter, subjects that are of value for you, and at the same time sharing the experiences and the learning process that I'm going through. In this episode of Memory from The Mind Explained, I learned the intricacies of the brain. Obviously, a 20-minute episode is not going to go in depth with everything, but give you enough of a view as to the level of importance and complexity. The way that they explain how the different parts of the brain interact with one another and how they basically work in this intricate unison to provide our thoughts, our cognition, our movements, speech, senses, so many different things that we just don't think about unless we're scientists ourselves. And so, one of the very curious things that I learned about, and I don't know why I'm surprised or I was surprised, and there is this World Memory Championship, which I didn't even know exist. So, there's these basically mental Olympics of competitors that go through this severe memory contest and process of how much information they can memorize, and we're talking numerical sequences and of very, very long complexities for a certain period of time. Sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, and it's a very varied and detailed process. And I thought, aside from it being very interesting and challenging, I can tell you, having come myself from doing a cognition test about a month ago, it gets to be tiring. I did a 5.5 hour test in 3 hours, and I was drained. I was at the end of it so exhausted. I felt like I had done the biggest workout ever, and my mind was just depleted of anything of value. And it was, in a matter of speaking, a very, very small level of this Olympics. And that's where you see the level of freshness in your mind or capability of retaining information. This is not a test on intelligence, rather memory and cognition, being able to recognize things and images and words and all these things. And so this show with this championship and whatnot reminded me of my own experience, which was, as I said, draining. But it also showed me some of the methods of which people use to memorize things. And the way my brain works personally is one thought leads to a memory and it connects it to another thought. And then there's like this chain reaction, and it starts with something very small and it ends up being somehow weirdly connected to something completely different. So this other thought that came to mind afterwards was Jim Kwik. I think is how it's pronounced, his last name, Kwik. I think he published books via Hay House, and I think this goes back to connections with people such as Joe Dispenza, from these are scientists from a movie named What the Bleep Do We Know? But anyway, Jim had his own experience as a kid, I think kindergarten, brain injury, couldn't learn. Life was very difficult for him. Figured out how to learn how to read, and through a series of events ended up finding out a way to learn how to bring out the most out of your brain, and being able to utilize your brain to a maximum capacity. And he created his own center and company, and very famous guy. But it was something that he claimed, and I wrote about this on my post on his website, that intrigued me. And in connection with the Mind Explained docuseries, it all became like a ball of ideas in my head. And I don't have any answers. I'm really good at having questions, but I don't have many answers. I did reach out to Jim, hoping that he will respond, or somebody in his company will respond. I just want to know if there is any experience within his center, within his courses, that have touched people with neurodegenerative diseases. His whole thing is about brain hacking, or more like utilizing tools for memory, for memorizing people's names, memorizing and learning to read fast, being able to remember things. It's a brain tool that he has. And in his website, if you go to the links that I will share on the podcast, one of the parts that I quoted from it says that he discovered that no matter the circumstances, we can rebuild our brains. No matter the circumstances. So, of course, my mind went into... Remember, he had a brain injury. I don't know the level of injury. I don't know what exactly happened. But as a kid, his brain injury made it very difficult for him to learn, to be able to have good attention, to be able to learn to read and write. He had to figure out a way on his own to do this. So if he was able, with a brain injury, something that actually happened to his brain, and I know this is not the same as having something like Alzheimer's, but I'm wondering, I'm curious, if it could also, in some type of way, be used to enhance or improve a person's memory, a person that has ADHD or any other type of neurodivergence. If focus, which is something obviously that comes from the brain, can also be improved. Can it help just various types of brain issues? So you guys get the gist of what I'm going for here with the show and the conversation about memory and brain improvement and enhancement. Of course, there's diets. There is deep conversations about meditation and being present, yoga, exercise, funny, I never thought physical exercise was as important for your brain as I know it is now. But there is so much more to learn, so much more to keep in mind that I think we can learn from. And as always, I look forward to your comments and experiences. I continue to be grateful to those who contribute on our LinkedIn channel, on the group, and all of you who are listening and hopefully sharing this information with other people who you may feel have the potential to benefit from our conversations, or who might have a story or information or something to contribute. We always welcome your insight. Looking forward to the future, I do have in mind a few interviews of people who are caregivers or who have information that could be beneficial to caregivers. That is coming up. It's in the works. But just giving you a heads up, this is something that is going to be happening. Holidays are here. Work is very, very busy, and I'm sure our lives are going to be even busier for the next few weeks. For next week, I am planning to have a more in-depth conversation about sundowning and what that means to people with dementia, and we'll do a further investigation. So just something to give you something to look forward to for the following week. Thank you so very much for joining me this time around. I hope this is a good start to your week. It is probably going to be a very busy one after the holidays. Just remember to remain calm, triage your situations and chores as best as possible. Please remember, and I'm saying this to myself as well, that we need to remain calm and know when to ask for help. Don't wait until you feel yourself drowning. Try to recognize your triggers and at what point you know you might need help. And don't be afraid or embarrassed to do so, whether it is in your personal life, your work life, or your work life is your personal life, however that may work out for you. Wishing you a very wonderful week ahead. Thank you so, so much for joining.